يعني in Arabic we say Laura shukran. It's not just thank you. It is like eternal gratitude. I have a photographic memory. I've taught for 25 years here. Every face I've registered today, come to me anytime at the Arabic department at Stanford and say, we came to Banaat Abdul Rahman, get us a coffee, a tea, anything. I don't forget faces, including Frank Tawil. Ya hada Frank. Fadi, tfaddal. So why don't we first of all give him a round of applause. Zaid Hamdan flew in from Jordan, not Georgia, Jordan, and he's gonna have a seat right there. Tfaddal. And then Doctora Touria is going to join us over here. Touria, he's like our son. You and me will put him in the middle. And Yasso, where is Yasso? Yasso, you're going to give Touria sure, we can pass it along, but if that works, Yasso, that would be great. Ibrahim Jarjoura, can you stop the film, please, over there? And I'm gonna begin with McGregor, who has a question in Arabic. That Ibtisam Dawood will translate. Faddal. You gotta hear this kid. Not a word of Arabic when he started at Stanford. Vivian, listen to this. سؤال إلك باللغة العربية من McGregor. اسمع.
زين. أنا حبيت الفيلم كتير. وأنا سمعت في مقابلة إنك عملت زي سورفي عن حياة النساء والبنات في الأردن يعني قبل الإنتاج الفيلم يعني فإحنا بنشوف في الفيلم كتير طرق حياة ومشاكل حياة يعني أنا بدي أسمع منك عدد من كيف يعني النساء والبنات ردوا عليك في السورفي يعني.
Thank you so
Zaid.
much.
Thank you yourself. His name is McGregor, not Muhammad. So, you know, Zaid did a survey with women when he was doing the movie because he wanted to get general opinions from women. So McGregor was asking him, what were the results of the survey? Because you did like quite a big survey.
300 surveys. It was 300 surveys that I sent out. So after I had this conversation with my mom that I did explain before the movie started, I started talking to my aunts, my cousins, and I thought like there's a common thing, there's a common frustration that is there with most women in my country. And you know, Jordanians have this reputation of being angry by nature. We're not angry, we just need somebody to smile first. That's what I think. But after that, yes, I sent out 300 surveys and to women anonymously, you know, answering the questions. They were from different backgrounds, different religious, socio-economical, like all that stuff, political backgrounds, and the feedback was so shocking that I would say maybe 99% of the the surveys that came back, women didn't want to discuss anymore, they wanted to scream. They all had this need to scream, this very pent-up anger, which hence why I dealt with a few scenes in a kind of blast, screaming way, which thankfully worked very well for especially Arab women. They loved it. But the crazy thing is that the feedback was when the question was asked, like, who do you think is a woman's like enemy or the person who's blocking, you know, whatever development, and most of these women said another woman. Wow. But the thing is, of course, it's not the case. I'm sure it's the case for some people, you know, but the crazy thing is that we live in a culture that pins women against each other. We live in a culture that tells women you compete with your looks, with your body, with those things, with how good of a daughter, wife, mother you are. So this is kind of what created that. And there's like a lot of shocking things in the surveys, but thanks for this question.
Yeah, I mean, pitting women against each other is not just a Middle Eastern or Arab thing.
Of course,
I think it's universal. And I love how they unite at the end. When women get together, they make things happen. Jacqueline, I know you had one comment, and it's emotional. but go ahead and get it out, since we're talking about freeing yourself. Jacqueline from Lebanon, saw the movie and just needed to tell you something.
So my apologies. I'm not fond of lots of Arabic movies, but I watched this one, and I'm coming from a different culture. Lebanon is a bit different than Jordan, but overall it affected me tremendously. After I watched the movie with Ramzi, I was driving home. I literally was very emotional because I'm one of 4 sisters, and even though like nothing in the background, not at all, like nothing happened in the movie applies in my life, but it just made me kind of like feel sad that I would like to have that camaraderie with my sisters and kind of open up, because we did lose a mother at a very young age. My father was killed in Lebanon. So we have lots of sadness, but none of us will share it with the other one. We just want to protect each other, so we'll keep it to ourselves. So it really kind of like made me, I drove home, literally cried all the way home. Even though the movie didn't apply on me personally, but it touched me in the sense that sometimes we hide our sadness to ourselves. And these women, every one of them had a story to herself, you know, from a gay husband to whatever it was. So.
Oh, you gave that, she just said the gay husband. How many people got the gay husband? I didn't get it the first time, by the way. Oh, so I wasn't the only person. You guys got it? December, you got it?
Yeah, I got it right.
So there's a funny story behind this.
She got it. You got it from the first. I want to watch it. I mean, I loved watching it, but I didn't get it till like the 3rd time. People were like, "Duh." I said,
A story about this. I have a little some trivia about this story. So the whole I give hints, and then the big reveal is when she's on the phone with Wafa, telling her, you know, wants to know if she's with them or not, because basically Samah wants to know that she's with them to kind of like relax. But so the call, what the Wafa told her on the phone, our husbands, she said in Arabic, جوزي وجوزك مش بس بيشتغلوا مع بعض، جوزي وجوزك مع بعض. She told them our husbands are not just working together, they're together. But then when the movie, and this is how it screened in Cairo Film Festival, when we were like the first non-Egyptian, non-Western film to ever win the Audience Award there just 2 years ago. This part was screened, but then when we were supposed to go to like Saudi cinemas and big cinemas, we wanted like kind of the big commercial, because honestly, like for me, it was more than money, more than anything. I really wanted people to see this film. I wanted more women and men to see this film from my region. So, but then they were like, what about the commercial stuff? So the cussing was okay. The cigarette, the hashish, the hash was okay. But the gay husband was not okay. So, you know, there's levels of like, you know, how developed things are. Yeah, so basically what I did is I changed that to like, if you think your husband's cheating on you with me or any other woman, to make it kind of less in your face, and that went to the cinemas in Saudi.
And that went over my head the first time, but then that's why
I'm glad you watched it.
No, because there's that scene where she's asking about sex, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, tell me about sex. I'm like, why is she so? And then we kind of find out because she's obviously in a marriage where that's an issue.
She's deprived from it, and what I noticed in a lot of women in Jordan, one of them, including my aunt, she is the one that looks like she's hypersexualized, and she's so open and loud, and wears whatever she wants and blah blah blah, all this stuff. But there was nothing going in that area, and I think in a way for her, of course, this is not for all women. It was her way of like compensating a certain thing, overcompensating.
Wow. So let us have the young lady, Marhaba.
Well, thank you so much for your film and for your work. The theme that struck me was the theme of the truth teller. I saw especially the irony of Zainab being accused of telling the lies, but then at the end, she's the only voice of truth in the face of even her community. And it's not a theme lost on me coming from Jordan, where we hear even Jacqueline saying she's not telling the truth even to her own sisters. We don't tell the truth very often in our houses, in our communities, even with each other. And I wanted to understand from your perspective as a Jordanian male, if if I may assume so. When you said that you read the feedback in the 300 surveys, even though the stories of these women are not my own, I would not have been shocked. Even watching this movie, I am not shocked. So for you to be shocked, what do you think can be done for men to listen to the truth, to be open to the truth, to realize the truth that maybe they already know but they do not want to face? What do you think as a Jordanian man can be done within our own country?
Well, thank you so much for your words and for this question. I think, honestly, number one, women should stop trying to make men understand. Women should stop trying to, because this whole thing when like, you know, when I'm living my life, you know, now we have International Women's Day, which is something that, of course, I love and because of where we are today, but do we really need to have, like, this is some sort of like, it's kind of like it separates women as the weaker or the lesser than or blah, 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 or the minority. Because a lot of these big days are for minorities or for, you know, not all of them, of course. But I feel like it's time to like take the narrative from men and for women to like know that they can only, you know, get what they want by supporting each other. Because this happens all the time. And now in Jordan, there's like a big movement for like against kind of underage marriage. And the people that are driving it mostly are women. And I feel like because it's so ingrained in our, and you said something about like the lying or not saying the truth all the time. Unfortunately, we are raised in a way that is driven by guilt, not driven by what's right and what's wrong, not driven by self-love, driven by if you're my sister and I'm gonna do something and it's, well, that's a bad example. If you're like, you know, if somebody's my father or my brother or blah, 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 then I have to act in a way also to make their social image acceptable and reputation. So we get used to this whole thing of like not saying the full truth, like I'll tell you the full truth with the last 20% in the way you would like it. So this is why we stop, you know, because sadly we don't celebrate differences by any differences. I mean, we want to, you know, shut it down. We want to be like everybody should be the same. So I think that's where it comes from, like the whole lying and hiding.
In fact, I think this is why I'm so proud of Professor Touria Boumehdi for joining us today. I mean, this is a movie about Arab women, and I thought we should have an educated Arab woman. And I know she has thoughts about your question. Can you pass the mic to Touria and she can share some of her thoughts with us بالإنجليزي أو بالعربي؟
بالعربي وبعدين مترجم بس تساعدوني في الترجمة. I can translate in French with Spanish, but my English
You
is
want to
not
do
perfect.
the English first?
If you want?
Yeah.
So first of all, blessed Eid for all Muslims. Eid al-Adha Mubarak Saeed, and thank you so much for the Department of Abbasi Program and Global Studies for making these events happen. Thank you so much for our Zaid Abu Hamdan, the young director, and as we say in French, la relève est assurée.
Sounds fancy, I'll take it.
La relève est assurée, that means we have, how to say that in English? La relève est assurée. Zaid Abu Hamdan. So let me do it in Arabic because we have many Arabics and you can.
We have a translator there.
Yeah.
alone can translate the encyclopedia.
من هنا كذلك نرى ذكاء المخرج الشاب زيد أبو حمدان الذي أشكره كثيرا هنا، حيث يصبح في نظري هو الأخت الخامسة. He is for me the fifth sister, or الأخ الخفي, or the
brother.
Yeah. Or the narrator, السائد, because you are narrator, you are director. والذي هو الأربعة, you are the fourth sister also. أنت الذي ستدفع بأخواتك لطرح مشاكل ومآسي العالم العربي الذي لا زال غارقا في أفكار وعادات أكل عليها الدهر وشرب.
Old traditions Arabic culture that have to change by now.
Yeah. كالكثير من الشباب العرب يحاول زيد طرح هذه المشاكل as all the young Arab people زيد want to expose these problems بكل جرأة بل وبكل شجاعة. الجرأة
Guts and courage. He does it with guts and courage.
بل وجعل كل هذه المشاكل كأنها مشاكله هو نفسه. هو كشاب عربي أنثى كان أم ذكر. And this problem, he makes this problem like his problems. Problems all of the young people, male or female.
Regardless of gender. I think, a lot of people are surprised when they hear it's
The most repetitive question, yeah, since
you
we
mean a
started.
male directed this powerful?
No, they're surprised that the male wrote this.
Yeah, we should
And
have
I'll
that.
tell you what.
وبكل شجاعة and with courage وكل أمله هو أن يرى يوما ما بعض التغيرات في المجتمع العربي. And his hope is to one day saw these changes in Arabic world from the east to the west, of course. طبعا وللأسف هذه العادات لن تتغير من عشية لضحاها. Of course, these changes will not happen overnight. ولكن الكلام عنها طرحها للنقاش إخراجها على شكل أفلام أو مقالات في مجلات أو تقارير بالتلفزيون. أنا متأكدة أنه سيساهم في بداية التفكير والأخذ بالاعتبار كل هذه المواضيع التي تطرق إليها زيد.
Well, I think we all agree that thanks to Zaid and people like Zaid, things are going to change. This gives you hope. And it's not going to happen overnight.
No. أخيراً finally أريد أن أختم كلامي قائلة I want to finish saying لو بدأ العالم العربي يعدم المبالاة عدم يعدم don't care about ما ظاهرة the phenomena of ماذا سيقول عنا الناس le qu'en dira-t-on en français et el que dirán en espagnol. Like, ماذا يقول الناس عنا? What people can say about us? What was فلان can say about us or فلانة? الحصول obtaining الحرية لكل واحد for everybody to choose what he wants to wear, hijab or not hijab. Last but not least, منع زواج القاصرات, to prohibit the marriage of the minors الذي يهدم حياة كثير من الفتيات. And if our society doesn't care about all these problems, we will see the last slide. This is a symbolic, beautiful symbolic that you have, inshallah, lighting all the doors of Arabic world. Thank you.
من المشرق إلى المغرب توريا بومهدي. And the way she ties in women's rights with homophobia, with representations of the Arabs in the West, how would you respond to such a powerful?
I mean, obviously, thank you so much. Like from somebody, of your background and your stature. I mean, it's such a great honor to hear that from you. And also, I want to say this in the beginning. I'm very honored to be at Stanford. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramzi, for making this happen. Abbasi program, Rula, everyone.
Rula. I can't stress Rula enough.
Seriously, I wanted to say this now before I forget. But of course, I am part of. A part of me is in each one of these, women, like the struggle and stuff like that. People think that, and this is what I found in the screening of this film internationally, we won 5 audience awards around the world. And what I noticed is that men are responding to the film almost equally as it impacted women. Of course, some men are more expressive about it, some men are not. We have men that watched the film 3 times in the same festival, came over and over again. Now, I feel like there's a lot, because I don't have to be a woman to write about female issues or homosexual to write about homosexual, all this stuff. I just need to be human, and I need to, you know, see my mom as not only the person who should just make me feel great and love me and care for me and do this, but also it's like she's a full-fledged human being. So I mean, it's an honor that you say that I'm one of them, or maybe a fifth sister, or fifth brother, whatever it is. I mean, there's one moment, it's always so good to me so great for me when a lot of women come to me after the screening in festivals and they say, this film represented us very well. I spent 7 years writing this film because I was terrified of being accused of, like, you know, telling a film from a male perspective, which is why it took me a lot of time. And I know, like, even though I'm, you know, maybe different or progressive in certain ways that I am, but like, I'm still born and raised in Jordan. There will be some biases that I thought would maybe slip without me knowing that they're biases, you know? And that's why it took so long. And thank you for all that you said.
So we have Jack?
You answered, I love that you just said about your mom. And in the movie, 2 places we saw the woman freeing. The woman, she told the guy, if your mom told you, she told the mom, why didn't you stop him when he was harassing women? That's one thing that women should teach their sons, not their daughters, to be a better husbands, to be a better partners. So the second one, the mom herself freed her daughter from not, like, she stopped it. So literally, as a woman, as a Middle Eastern woman, I think it's our duty as mothers, as a girl, as daughters, as sisters, to literally not compete with each other, empower each other, and raise better sons as well. We focus on the girl, but the guys have a lot to do with it. I raised 3 boys. I made sure my sons were respectful to their partner, man or woman, whatever they were. I have a kids. So it's like, you know, it doesn't matter. So the point is, I think الأم مدرسة إذا أعدت شعبا طيبا الآن. It goes back to the mother.
And mother is like a school.
That's it.
ما شاء الله الأكليل. I was going to say.
Thank you, very true, very true, very true.
Excuse me. I would like to know what is the divorce rate in Jordan?
Excellent question. The divorce rate in Jordan. Do you
Divorce
know?
rates in Jordan are, I think, if I'm not mistaken, amongst like the top like 10 or 15 countries in divorce. Yeah, and of course there's a lot of, you know, maybe the previous generation blames it on, like, you know, these kids, they don't know what they want, you know, there's so many options, blah, blah, blah. But I personally know a lot of people that are married and the man or the woman is a full-blown homosexual. So this is another reason why a lot of divorces are happening. Of course, there's a lot of divorces because, you know, misogyny, abusive husbands. I'm sure there's divorces because the woman did X or Y, but like the majority is definitely because it didn't start right. There's nothing that's, because the lazim, you know, this is the word that I really despise the most in languages, which have to. I heard have to, that I have, and I'm a man in Jordan, which I know I get it like 1,000 times easier than women, but I still was so pressured under you have to do this at this age, have to marry, have to get a job, buy a whatever it is, you know, we have to present the family, the whole family. And I, you know, صرخت نفسي, you know, I think like I stripped myself from that, I hope.
Dr. Touria. Yes, go ahead, please.
My second question, because you have contemplated for 7 years, as you said, that you have tried to write it so beautifully and presented the, you know, whatever is going on so beautifully. I would like to know, because I really do not like to point my fingers at women, because they are really victim of religion, culture, and constitution. So I would like to know your opinion about how to make the change, basically, you know, from fundamental change, not, you know, just, okay, educate moms, educate children. Children are productive of society. As soon as they go out of the house, they are impacted, or they are there, are cultured in the society.
So what are the practical changes, maybe? And also, Touria, did you want to make your
just,
comment
I
about
want
this
to jump
question, and then we'll go to
very quickly. I want to jump and add something that Zaid said. You said we have to pretend. I will say, and we have to lie in Arabic word. So people lie. You prefer to lie instead of to say the truth. And the film show is a lot. Like if everybody is lying to make things like going wild. Smooth now.
What people say. In terms of the practical steps that we can take, something more than just theoretical is what I'm understanding. What would you think?
Honestly, I mean, I can describe a lot of ways and things that I think is the right way to go. But what I personally believe is that at least in my country, I don't want to say that, or the Arab region, what needs to happen is that women, I believe, need to realize how much power they can actually have. Women need to realize how much self-love, choosing to leave a man who is abusive or bad for any reason, even though I have kids, is going to empower the kids. It's not going to be easy, of course. Divorce is never easy on children. But so many women, millions of women, stayed in an abusive marriage, stayed in a bad marriage, or a marriage that, as simple as like, because they marry virgins and the sex is horrible, for example. And they live in it because they don't want to, they destroy their lives because they don't want to ruin their home. Basically, this needs to change. Women need to, and I was just talking to somebody recently in my family who got a divorce despite so much hardship. I said, listen, your daughter one day is gonna look back at this and she's not gonna take shit from any man who was abusive. Even though now she's a young kid and she's on her father's side, he kind of like whispered in her ear a lot of things, but that will change. I feel like self-love and knowing how much power women have is very crucial, because if women are waiting for men to do it, it's not gonna happen. And sometimes, revolution starts one person at a time, and sometimes in revolutions there are always casualties. Sadly, in some parts of the world, this might need to happen. In recent years, when the Me Too movement, kind of like was all over the world, we started hearing stories about women in Jordan and girls in Jordan doing things against their families, against the man's will in their family, and the violence against women is like maybe doubled now in Jordan, because women are empowered by these things. But this is how it starts happening. One person breaks the barrier or part of it, the next one does. But if women keep saying, oh, I'm gonna stay for peace or for my kids, that's never gonna end up well.
Solidarity. So I have the nice lady over here, and then I think you wanted to follow up on something. Go ahead.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Again, to the question of how do we fix this, and everything you said at the beginning, these power relationships that's the sort of, as an Arab country, Middle Eastern manifestation in this power relationship, sort of hundreds of years of history, of religion, and ultimately, I would say, emphasize the economy. So to go, this is what needs fixing. And I noticed, and I want to know if this was, if you intentionally narrated the way you did, which is I guess the oldest sister, I'm right, at the end is actually the one who made money by sewing and even helping the father. Which was that, because that I think in your film is so powerful. Not only you're magnifying the problem so wonderfully, but also you're actually saying, look at this. Because
she was the only one who was economically independent, right? And that thing about she was buying from her father's store the stuff just so he feels like a man. But then she's the one who's, so tying it in with the economy, because you're asking about divorce. But then we always have to ask, well, how are we going to...
Of course, the economic situation is very
big. It's such a good last scene, right? The one you said, the lights. Ibtisam Dawood, you wanted to add? I know there was a follow-up there, but go ahead. Yes?
Oh, there's a question we didn't answer.
No, you didn't.
Okay, so let him answer that question, and then listen to Ibtisam Dawood. You're gonna love this feminist.
Sorry, you said which moment were you referring to?
Where you actually, so you describe the problem.
Which is hiding the money, buying in secret.
It's the whole thing, the whole context, societal, the pressure.
So it's two things. I believe two things. Of course, for somebody like Zainab, the way I see Zainab is of course because she loves her father. So she wants to make him feel that he's still providing. But also a big part of it is patriarchy that Zainab is practicing. Instead, again, back to self-love, back to self-appreciation. If she's doing all of that, if she's the one doing it, she chose to still be the victim and still be the underdog and still make daddy, be the one that seems to be providing and all that stuff. So it's part of also the mentality, the system, the selflessness that we are taught at a young age that is not. I love selflessness and I love being wanting to give people. Sorry, but once it's affecting my personal self-respect, once it puts my mind, my heart, and my body, that is a gift from God or the universe or whatever, in jeopardy because of that, then I'm doing the wrong thing. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of course, I'd like to think that everything in the film was done intentionally. Of course, some people took different things from different moments, like understood different things, but yeah, thanks for the
economic aspect. Why did you narrate the story the way you did? About she's the one, as you say, sacrifices, selflessness, talent, and at the end you turn it and she's the one who's actually running.
Because honestly, I feel like there's a lot of people like that. You see, especially the older woman or man who didn't get married, who gets stuck at home, take care of the elders. This person is all the people I know has become selfless in a point, like they're almost like a saint. Like I'm just gonna keep torturing myself in life, and so I can get redeemed in the afterlife. This is a mindset that a lot of the people that when his father gets missing. She is terrified of what people would say about her because her existence is based on taking care of her father. She's none of the women she creates outfits for. She just leaves a little piece to remember. So she's that kind of person, and sadly there's a lot of these examples in Jordan. Women mostly, but also men.
I'm talking about these issues with my Western friends, European friends. I find a lot of opinions seem to gravitate, if it's not this, then it should be the Western way. And I actually have a problem with that. I think we have so much beauty and wonderful things about our tradition. I don't want to lose all of them. I think it's wonderful that we're so strong as families and communities. There's so much self-help, self-improvement, self in the West. The self is exhausted. Yeah. And I think we're meant to be communal creatures, and there's strength there. And
we're too communal. Here they're too individualistic.
Yeah,
so what's the middle ground?
I would just hate that we to correct one thing, we go to the other extreme. I would love for us, as Arabs everywhere, to find our way that's true to us without having to compromise what makes us special.
I love this, and I'm not going to go there, but in terms of also Western feminism, and do Arab women liberate themselves by following the Western model, and are Western feminists rescuing Arab women really, so your question is a whole other lecture that I'd love to have. What is Touria could be contributing to that discourse as an independent woman? Ibtisam, what was your thought?
I was gonna say the same thing. I was, a woman financially independent. It makes a big difference. And I noticed, in the movie that you probably you wanted to show the role of the mother from the beginning. The mom was not there. And getting married early, they did not have any education. And I was thinking, if we saw one of them that she struggled to have her education, which happens a lot in the Arab world, women do everything just, they go and, you know, like study without their dad knowing, and once their dad find out, you know, that's a big problem. So I think, you know, like women, you know, like when they, you know, like they will go with a bad marriage for so many years because financially they are not independent. So, you know, like what I'm gonna do, like, you know, like she was cooking and, you know, selling the ورق دوالي and the, you know.
Like Ahmad said, Samah said to Ahmad, do you have any other options? Do you have any other
Exactly,
solutions?
because she doesn't have any other option. And I think, you know, like, if we saw one of them, like, education is very important for women, you know, in general. And to be financially independent, you need education. You know, like, I like to see, you know, like, to emphasize on the education, you know, like, part in this. And as you said, you know, like it's really, you know, like, because I think I'm the last one, I was thinking the same thing, you know, most of you. It's, you know, like the culture, you know, our culture, it's not, you know, like, there is some good things, bright things in our culture, and the same thing with the Western culture. As a mother who lived here 45 years and I raised 3 kids, I used to tell my kids, you know, you are fortunate that you are in between 2 cultures, and we have to get the best out of the Western culture and the Arabic culture to, you know, like, to live really happy and without all these, you know, conflicts. So I congratulate you for the movie. I heard about the movie and I was, you know, waiting to see this movie. And it was really good.
It's not the example of what she's saying, where she combines the East and the West. Is her son right here, Hisham Dawood, who is a music producer who's actually been to the Arab world and brought musicians who are not very appreciated there and brought their voices to the world. He remixes, he does, so I have to plug this in. What's the website? HishamDawood.com? Yes. Okay, you want to respond?
I want to say something about West versus East and stuff. So there's the scene where the wedding, where the bride is trying on her wedding dress in Zainab's workroom, and at some point she tells Khitam, she's like, yeah, he's too Jordanian, but I'll change him with time. Or his mind is too Jordanian. So when it screened in Jordan, in one of the cinema days, I used to, like, when I was in Jordan, I would like pop in and like do Q&As, random Q&As with people in the cinema to really get what people are feeling. And there's this young girl who's like 23, just came back from studying in Berlin or London, I think, and she was so happy with the movie and everything, but she was so mad at this line. She was like, why, you know, like, you did all this, and, you know, I said, why is the problem? Like, we hear this line every day, he's too Jordanian. We say this about each other, like, you know, come on, stop being too Jordanian. So, and she's like, because I spent 4 years in London making sure I represent Arabs and Jordan in the best way possible to the West. And I have a fundamental problem with that. I am not born, you know, already kind of labeled in a certain way, you know, because, you know, maybe because I'm Middle Eastern or because of whatever it is, but it's not my responsibility to go and like present the best, you know, represent the best image. We have really good stuff in our cultures, like we said, we have beautiful stuff in our culture, but we have really shitty things too, just like any other place. So the whole thing of like representation, so this, I heard something from like somebody who was in a huge film festival, which we were supposed to open at, and he called me after he resigned from the selection committee, and he's like, if your film ended with Zainab, for example, hiding in a room, Aman's husband slapped her and put her back in the room, and it's a tragic ending, he's like, trust and believe this film would have been to our festival, which is like a major festival, you all know it. He's like, because this is the narrative that, you know, they call it like the middle-aged white man, because this is the biggest category of selection committee and festivals. That's what they know, that's what they want to see, that's what they're used to in our cultures. And this really bugs me. So like I really don't care about representation, I care about truth. I want to say that, you know, that's it.
Really, I would like to congratulate you. It's a very beautiful film. Okay? And you dare to present some problems of not only our society, like Arabs, but there is different societies in the world. Okay? But I would like to remind you, lady,
Professor Touria.
okay, بنت الشاطئ in the 1920. Do you remember her word?
بنت الشاطئ.
بنت الشاطئ. I remember the film. Yeah.
And I remember that my grandmother and the grandmother of my own mother, okay, in the 1920, when Chanel in France cut her hair and her dress, they did it too. So the society, the film is not a reflection of our own society. It's a reflection of some abused women in different societies.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is my opinion.
Yeah.
I
تعليق
have seen it
كتير
in
حلو.
France, I have seen it in America. In America, they have shelters for abused women.
Yeah.
And they have shelters for abused men also.
They started that in Jordan, but it's
I have never
complicated.
seen it in Syria. I have never seen it in Jordan.
It started now, but it's getting really complicated in Jordan because the husband's right to have his wife in court, blah 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 blah. هذه القصص
بيت الطاعة.
بيت الطاعة. So, yeah.
I don't think it exists.
It has to do with obedience.
It's house of
When I was
obedience.
at the university, we were maybe 40 or 50 students in Damascus in Syria. They were all like, I mean, the way you see me, this is how I was there.
Yeah.
So it's.
ميرسي على التعليق عن جد. It really it hits everybody, that comment, because it is the global. Can I have your first name? Diane. Can we all look at Diane, who sat through the film and who's been patiently waiting? Diane, anything you want to say? Here's it.
I was deeply touched by your film and your commitment to truth telling. And like she said, it's a universal story, and your portrayal of the women and the dynamics, it was so authentic. I grew up in Texas, and 60 years ago, my mother was trapped in a domestic violent marriage where she was raped and beaten. And when we would call the police, they would come, stand at the screen door and not enter. And she couldn't get out because of economics. She was a professional nurse, but her wages were so low. She had 4 children. And I remember so many years later when they changed the law where police would intervene in domestic violence. I was out here then, and I felt an immediate sense of relief, that law had changed. And then I had a 36-year career with NASA, with the federal government, and I struggled again as a mother with the lack of comparable wages, even though I was gainfully employed and well educated. So I watched that slowly change, and you just told the universal story, and
I think you're changing the mood.
Thank you so much. I'm not a good.
Something regarding the wages. In Syria, they never asked me if I know how to cut dactylo when I presented myself for a job. They always asked me, what kind of diploma do you have?
Oh,
Yes,
in Syria.
in Syria. And we had the same salary like men. The diploma will tell you what is your salary. This when you work in the public sector.
Oh, we're yet to get equal pay for equal work here. Okay, yeah, so can I have the lady behind you ask first, and then I'm coming right back to you.
I love this sound, and I'd love to share. I really agree with everyone. This is such a universal theme. It's not just specifics from your country, but it resonates in all of us. I'd love to share it. Is there a way that I can see it again?
That's a great question. I mean, where do you watch this movie if you want to tell your friends about it? When are we going to get it on Netflix? It's impossible to find, Mr. Hamdan.
Hello, yeah. So this is my first feature film, so I didn't know all about how the movie goes, where it goes, and all that stuff. So when the movie screened for the first time at the world premiere, we got, Netflix wanted the movie immediately to put it in Netflix International, but now there's Shahid, which is like the Arab Netflix, who has kind of somehow more money than Netflix. And you know, I'm not the financiers of the movie, so it was like, so it went to Shahid now, which is the Arab Netflix, and it will hopefully in a few months be available on Netflix US, and probably,
more people need to see the right
really hope so,
video,
yeah.
right? Oh, Hisham, شو رأيك? Yeah, we're changing the narrative today. Yes, Hisham.
You mentioned a word. You mentioned a word earlier that what up?
Okay.
You mentioned a word earlier that you didn't like. I got one too that I don't like in Arabic. Nas, the nas. I've hated that word since I was a little kid. She knows. And it's basically like the public, the shame, right? Like go to the nas kind of thing, right? Obviously, that was a big theme permeating throughout the film. The judgment from the external world was very obvious. Obviously, there was the misjudgment of the four sisters between each other. It was almost like they were kind of seeing themselves, or rather seeing each other through the lens of the nas. I mean, that kind of kept burning at me the entire time. Kind of zooming out, you know, as this is going to be, I mean, again, congratulations getting into Netflix US, as it's going to be more broadly available. Even retrospectively, you know, retroactively, is there a theme that you think is more forward about the idea of misjudgment, particularly within families? Because, I mean, every culture can relate to siblings misjudging each other, particularly not looking at each other for the humans that they are, but through the eyes of, well, the nas.
I mean, you mean the theme for the film?
Or anything you want to, that's maybe more forward. We discussed the heavy, you know, Arabic specific, Jordanian specific themes, but now since it will be more available broadly, any themes that you might want to put more forward that are more about misjudgment, perhaps?
I mean, to me, honestly, like what's most important theme is in this movie is like self-love, is screaming screaming your truth or saying your truth in any way. The moment when Zainab says, "I kissed him twice," I mean, to a lot of people, it's like laughable, but to her, it's like a huge thing. And that moment, I'll tell you also what happened on set. So I wrote this script, and I wrote it and rewrote it and everything. When Zainab screamed, "I kissed him twice" on set, when Farah Absesa, who's an incredible actress, she did it 2 takes. I was frozen behind the screen, and we had a huge set. So this whole neighborhood, like the stair, is exactly where my mother was born and raised. I wanted to go to like the truth of like where a lot of these stories happened. And sorry, I lost the train of thought.
I kissed him twice?
Yeah, I kissed him twice. So basically, a lot of people cried so hard for this, and a lot of men responded very much, because it's not about kissing him twice, it's about saying something that made you feel so good, that you felt shameful with, you know, all your life. So that definitely resonated with people. So when I was filming, so they said I was silent. No, I didn't call cut even. And Farah was like stuck there. And the producer came to me and I was in tears. I then only realized how much that moment meant to me personally. And it's the same with all the other sisters. So, and that scene she only did 2 takes. We didn't even need the second take, we just did it for that. But yeah, that's kind of like the you know, the truth, I would say. Yeah.
That actress is Farah Absesa. She's the mother on Mo, the Netflix series as well. So you know the lady behind you, her name is Kulwa. She has to leave. She came late and came to let her ask her, but she's one of my students too. So you are such a sweet person for waiting. Kulwa, تفضلي.
Yes.
Excellent film. We came from a long way and we had to work on it. But there's a part in the film that I was holding back tears because I really related to it as a survivor of domestic violence. And the scene where she like punches her husband, and of course it's like she realizes like, I mean, I've been there where like I'm hitting back my abuser for the first time. And then you realize as a woman, like, oh my God, this probably didn't even hurt him. But then you just keep punching him anyway, and then you feel so strong. And then the actors were so good because for him, it wasn't that she was physically stronger, but her mentality became superior to his. And the look in his face, wallahi, that was like such a truthful look of like his realization of, whoa, the invisible shackles are gone. And like I just want to commend you for selecting.
And quick one, we always say, as an empowered woman, I was privileged to know how much you've been through and to see how you're thriving and how you are empowering other women and men right now. So just to see you here today and to watch you watch that scene was probably the most emotional thing I've ever felt. Thank you, Kowa. You want to make your comment? That's for you, Diane.
When I first came to this country, I was surprised that the American woman, they have no right to keep their name. They get married, they lose their identity.
Oh, their maiden name.
When in my country, that everybody thinks Muslim woman have no right, woman never loses their identity.
Funny, like nobody knows that about Iran, right? Like nobody assumes that. Let's have a gentleman's opinion.
I think we talk about the story and all the nation stuff, but I really like to comment on the quality of production.
Yes.
The camera work.
The cinematography.
I mean, this can stand against the best Hollywood movies in terms of.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right there. So.
Thank you. And guess what? 100% Jordanian crew. Camera, lighting, sound, actors, everybody. We made sure that we want to show, you know, what, because also part of my responsibility as a filmmaker, I believe, is to also be part of growing, not only having a message and trying to change things, but also growing, you know, the industry in a country that I love, which is why I made the movie. So thank you.
The story flowed so beautifully. There was not a single moment when you would feel it's been dragged on or something. So the camera, even there are a lot of quiet moments in the movie, and lots of movies have trouble, you know, passing over those little humps there. But this movie stood the test.
We have the auditorium till like 8:10 maximum, so I'm going to try to wrap it up, Rula. Is it 8:10 already? 8:15, mashallah. All right, we'll wrap it up with a quick comment, and then Zaid's hanging out.
I'm here.
Oh, wait. Can I say? Okay, go ahead and say it. I have some news. Go ahead.
Yeah. What is your next project? Question. And as I think the discussion really revealed, the fact is that this is not just a problem for women in a certain part of the world, but you have really shown the manifestation of that specific environment. It's about power structure, women everywhere. So maybe your next project should be to show
What is his next project?
What is his next project?
How is he going to follow up Banaat Abdul Rahman?
My next, oh my God, don't say that, I'm freaking out.
Okay, no pressure.
I'm like, every time I'm in a theater, and thankfully, I'm saying this out of completely, just being proud, because this movie did take a toll on me, like mentally and physically until it was made, and nobody wanted to finance it at first. I was going to all these producers, they're like, oh, too intense, people don't like to see that. While in TV series in Ramadan, men are beating the shit out of women all the time, and that's normal. Anyway, so my next project is actually inspired by the lives of 3 criminal female women in Jordan who were like thugs, like they were like atawat and khawa and all these things. And there was one in the 80s, her name is Khulud al-Majnoune, Crazy Khulud, they called her. In the 90s, Jamila al-Anatiyya, her last name, you know Jamila?
Wow.
And in the, my mom was there too.
I saw that.
And there's also Lubna al-Kawashiyya, who also, they were all killed, backstabbed. And the third one died in 2015. So growing up, hearing about these people, about Jamila from my mom, about Lubna from like she terrorized her city, Zarqa, which is like one of the most misogynistic cities in the world. It's home for like, it bred people like Abu Mus'ab al-Zarqawi, one of the biggest, terrorists in the world, all this stuff. So when I heard about these women, I was like, how? Yes, they are like criminals and they did horrific things, but how did a woman get to that status where she has like 50 men behind her, and in one head move, they can break down like a whole store? So I started researching. Luckily, I met one of the people who, he's like Zaim Qabila, like he's a tribal leader who married one of the girls. And I started doing my research. So I based a character on these 3 women, and it's called, her name is Bouma, which means owl. And it's the story of the last 9 months of a female thug in Jordan, which is, I would call her like the complete opposite of Zainab.
Wow.
180 degrees. She's a thug, she can cut people, but also she's beautiful.
So he's gonna hang out, come talk to him. If you're gonna take a picture, or just give him a private comment too. But can I say something before anyone leaves? I know I've kept you. Guess what today is, Vivian? It's his birthday. And so to have him on his birthday. Now, you guys know happy birthday, but do you know it in Arabic? You just say, Sana, Hilwa, Ya Jameel. Sana Hilwa, Ya Jameel. Sana Hilwa, Ya Zaid. Sana Hilwa, Ya Jameel. Happy birthday, Habibna. Honestly, what a special day. And Dr. Touria Boumehdi, thank you for joining us. And come up and talk to him.